Good morning, children. So, children, today we are going to discuss our chapter 10, that is Displacing Indigenous People. So, in our today class, we will discuss the last part of this chapter, that is about Australia. We will talk, okay? So, till now, we have seen that how European came to America and they captured America, and finally, American had taken their independence from European, right? So after that, European need other place to settle. So they attack Australia, and Australia is also a continent between the sea. As in America, human habitation in Australia also had a long history. A term was been given, Aborigines. It means that they arrived the continent 40,000 years ago or before, and they settled in Australia. They came from New Guinea, which was connected to Australia by a land bridge. That is, from where they came? They came from New Guinea through a land bridge. That is, through a land bridge, they enter Australia. Now, the past century were called dream time. Why? Because to the European, it was difficult time, or we can say it was a blurred time for them, as they could not understand the right thing, nor they could justify anything properly. Clear? So, in the late 18th century, there were about 350 to 750 native communities in Australia, and those native communities had their own language. One of the native group was identified called Torres Strait Islander, and they lived in northern part of the continent. If we talk about its population in 2005, its population was 2.4%. Clear? So Australia is mostly populated, and even now most of the town are along the coast. Why? Because the center part of the Australia is arid desert, that is dry area. Clear, children? So you could see the map out here, you will understand. You just see the Australia, the center part is the dry area, we can say the arid desert. So for that reason, in the coastal side you will find many town, that is in the coastal side the town was been located. Clear? Now the story of interaction between European settler, native people and the land in Australia was similar to those of America, as it started 300 years later, but still it was similar to those of American. Now report which we get from Captain Cook and his crew say that the native were enthusiastic and were of friendly nature, but a sharp reverse took place on the part of the British. Why it happened? As because when Captain Cook was been killed by one of the native, and Captain Cook, he was been killed by the native, but not in Australia, but in Hawaii, and Hawaii was the colony of America. Now, due to this, situation has changed, and the European justified the subsequent act of violence towards other people, as European they began to think that the native had killed their people, so they treated them in violence. And in 19th and 20th century, we will see that about 90% of the native lost their land and resources due to exposure to germs, and many had died also. And why many of them has died? As because they were fighting with the European for the land. Clear? And you could see that the experiment of settling Brazil with Portuguese convict had also been abandoned or proved fail, as when you lost your everything, definitely you will get angry and you will become out of control, right? So the native became violent towards them as they lost their 90% of land. The Britishers, they have adopted the same practice in American colonies until unless they became independent. So the same policies they adopted or continue in Australia also. As in England, if their jail was full or having too much slave, what they used to do? They used to send them to live as a free people in Australia on one condition, that they will not return back to Britain, as they were sent with no resources, no money, but to live a life far better than jail. They used to accept it, and they felt no hesitation to take the land from the native people. Clear? Now regarding the economic condition we will discuss. That is, economic condition of Australia under European was not as varied as America, as because they had vast sheep farm, mining station was established. For that, large numbers of labor was engaged, vineyard and wheat farming was also there. So slowly we could see that the country began to be prosperous, and the state began to united. And in when the state they began to unite in 1911, they decided to build a new capital. First, they kept its name Ul Whitgold, and later they changed to Canberra. So Canberra, the word came from native word, means a meeting place. Clear? So some native were engaged in farms under some condition, and the condition was also very harsh. Later Chinese immigrant they came, and they began to provide cheap labor, but Chinese immigrant was removed with the fear that the dark people from South Asia or Southeast Asia might migrate to Australia in large number, that there was a government policy to keep non-white people out. Clear? With this fear, the Chinese immigrant was being removed from there. Understood? Now, we will discuss about the wind of change. So, this is our last paragraph of your chapter. So, what changes has taken place or what changes occurred? We will discuss. So, in 1968, people were electrified by a lecture given by anthropologist named W.E.H. Stanner, very entitled on as the Great American Silence, which was earlier called as Aborigines. Now, why he entitled the Great Australian Silence? As in his lecture, he said to the communities that you all do not have any distinct culture of your own, nor your own history you have. So you do not have any record of past which could be understood and respected. So with this word of the Stanner, the Australian, they become electrified. So the Australian history began from the Captain Cook discovery. So after that we will see that university department have been instituted to study native culture. Galleries of native art was been placed in art galleries. Museum was been enlarged. So in this way Australian culture was been preserved. So from 1974, multiculturalism began as official policy. On the basis of this, all were given equal respect, even to the immigrant who came from Europe and Asia. They were also given equal treatment and respect. And in from 1970s, the term human right began to be heard at UNO. Before that, land of Australia belonged to no one. That means in the UNO meeting about Australia, no one was concerned or no one was having a talk about Australia. So the government has termed the land of Australia Terra Nullius, which means belong to nobody. Clear? So apart from that, we will also see that there was a long history of children of mixed blood, that is of native and those of the European, that is children who have been forcibly captured and separated from their native relatives. So for that debate took place, and also agitation occurs, clear, which lead to inquiries, and two important decisions was being taken. First one, to recognize that the native had strong historic bond with the land, that is the native they have to prove that they have a strong historical bond with the land which was a sacred to them and which should be respected. Now second was that while past act could not be undone, That is what was the past act been said. It cannot be changed. But there should be a public apology for the injustice done to the children in an attempt to keep white and colored people apart. Clear? So children, we have completed our chapter. So I hope you have understood. Still go through the chapter. If any doubts, you could ask me. Clear? So till then, take care. Thank you.